We are alive, ladies and gentlemen. I was looking at some data, and normally we always follow the American Federal Reserve, what they're doing with their interest rates, and whether they're increasing the M2 supply or not. But recently I got switched on to a different take on everything. So on the chart now that we're looking at, you should be able to see the growth of the M2 supply for the Chinese yuan, which has grown almost 10 trillion won since May of 2024. So in just under a year, they have inflated their monetary currency by almost $1 trillion won, which in US dollar terms is pretty damn close to $1 trillion. That's an extraordinary amount of capital being pumped in the markets. And I believe what we're about to see as we continue is more monetary stimulus by the Chinese government. Now, they've recently came out and said that they were looking to increase it by another 10 trillion. They've been going through a pretty deep housing collapse. They're trying to make these recoveries. And one of the things I think that's important to remember is that any time a government goes out of its way and increases its monetary supply, you're going to see an inflation in the price of assets. I believe the next bull market cycle is going to be more clearly indicated by the Chinese printing than the US printing. And it surprised us to see this new shift and change of character. Now, the other really interesting point to note is that the Chinese interest rates have been heading lower. Now, this is across the board for all Chinese borrowers and lenders. The Chinese interest rates have been falling for the last 5 or 6 years, and they're at the peak of the lows for the last 5 years. Now again, this interest lowered capital, huge increases in the M2. Generally, any good investor knows that if you have extra capital, you shouldn't hold on to it for too long because it's basically a hot potato. Your best bet is to get rid of it as quickly as possible and to trade those dollars for assets. So I suspect that's what we're going to see over the next few months. The other really interesting thing that I thought was kind of poignant was talks of war. Now, Xi Jinping had put out a message saying China is preparing itself for war. Now, war with who? If you've read any of China's documents around 5th generation warfare, they generally like to be pretty subversive in their means of attack, and they don't like to make waves. They would prefer to, say, buy the ports, or buy out the government, or maybe use biological warfare. Who knows? I'm not an analyst, I'm not a CIA agent, but what I have noticed is anytime there's calls for war, as soon as you see the indication of that, it's bull market to the moon. If we just rewind a little bit to when Hamas attacked Israel, or whatever happened there, I'm not going to say, but someone attacked someone there. On October 7th, 3 days later, Bitcoin went straight up, onwards and upwards for around 250 days. So I think this massive stimulus that's been printed and more that's about to be injected into these markets, the fact that the Chinese are openly calling for war in some way, shape, or form, we're going to see the bull market here ring in soon. So just some quick data I wanted to share with you guys. Leave your thoughts, your comments, questions down below. I just wanted to make a little bit of a video update and share with you guys along the way. Steve with the Arcade Bear. We'll see you in the next episode.